everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Tuesday to those of you guys who are watching on Tuesday. This is going to be my video on the solar eclipse in Libra. Very excited to talk to you guys about this. This is going to be a very big energy for the next 6 months or so. We've filmed this for quite a while. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm a Western astrologer. I work both with the Sabian symbols as well as tarot to better understand what's going on in the cosmos. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, make sure you click the bell button below so you're alerted as to when I have new videos on the channel. By subscribing, you help my channel growth and help get my videos out to other people. Make sure you drop me a thumbs up if you found this helpful and leave me a comment below, especially if this is your first time as a viewer. All right, guys, well, for the next couple of weeks, we are going to be feeling the energy building into what is going to be this solar eclipse in Libra. We know that eclipse season is upon us. It comes every 6 months, and eclipses come in pairs. This eclipse season is very interesting. We have the very first solar eclipse in Libra, the second eclipse in the series of eclipses in the Aries Libra eclipse cycle. If you guys remember, this started back in April earlier this year. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to be having, at the end of October, a lunar eclipse in Taurus, which is a completion eclipse. So it's so interesting that, eclipse season does bring endings and beginnings, big shifts, definitive themes in our lives, big decisions, people move, lots of things change, we start new jobs. So it really depends on where these eclipses are taking place in your chart. I will be taking you through the 12 rising signs at the end of this particular video, and then I will be giving you guys some predictions along with tarot as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But for me, this is kind of like a bit bittersweet. And I'm going to kind of break it down and explain to you guys why this is so important, because solar eclipses are very action-packed. They're new beginnings. This is a new moon on steroids. But this is a south node eclipse. It's conjunct the south node. So there's a little bit of having to look at the past, re-evaluating where we've been, what's working, what we want to go back to, or what we are ready to break away from. You've heard me talk about this as like a karmic portal for relationships. I'm really feeling like this is like a threads of fate eclipse where the people who are meant to be brought together will, the themes that are meant to be playing out are, and it's really eclipsing probably certain things out of our life to help us get on the path of where we need to go. But sometimes that means that we do have to check in with someone or something, or maybe review the past. So you guys are going to be seeing lots of those themes throughout this particular eclipse. This eclipse will be taking place on October 14th, 2023, but by the time you're watching this video, you're already feeling the energy because eclipses build several weeks in advance, and we feel them up to a year sometimes at a later date. Now, this eclipse will develop into a full moon lunar eclipse later in the spring of 2024. It'll be taking place on the 14th, and it'll be at 10:55 a.m. Pacific time, 1:55 p.m. Eastern time. Obviously, adjust your time zones depending on where you are in the world. I know we have people watching all over, so it might be a little earlier or a little later depending on where you are. The solar eclipse is going to be at 21 degrees of Libra. This is a cardinal air sign, so if you are a Libra, sun, moon, or rising, you're going to be feeling this the most. In particular, like the third decan, so I would say anywhere from 20 to like 22, 23 degrees. If you have any personal planets there, or you're a sun, moon, or rising of Libra, you're going to be really experiencing this very personally. This is also going to be taking place at 21 degrees, which has associations with Sagittarius. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we'll get into the Sabian symbol. As many of you guys may know, Venus is the ruler of Libra, right? It rules both Libra as well as Taurus. So these two particular eclipses in the month of October, even though they're taking place in two signs that don't technically make aspects to each other, Taurus and Libra in conjunct one another, meaning it's hard for them to see similarities, but there is a lot that ties them together. They're both ruled by Venus, planet of love, money, resources, and values. And so Venus is a really big star throughout these eclipses. If you guys took my webinar, you guys know that I talked about how Venus being in the sign of Virgo really highlights a lot of themes revolving around health. What is and is not healthy, both in terms of relationships, but also our habits, maybe our work routines, what we're consuming. And Venus in Virgo really teaches us to really get down to basics, to be willing to make sacrifices for the things that we love, to clean it up, to perfect it, to make it better, to make changes. So this is going to be a big theme revolving around the South Node eclipse, because it's saying if something or someone is not healthy for us, it may potentially have to go. So this might also feel like, for some of you guys, like a parting season in your life, that you're kind of releasing something. So like I said, those sun, moon, and rising Libras are going to be feeling this the most, but also the cardinal signs. So if you're in Aries, Cancer, or Capricorn around this, like let's say 20 to 23 degrees, you're also going to be feeling this pretty intensely because you'll be experiencing an opposition or a square. So let's read the Sabian symbol for the technically 22 degrees, right? Because we're going to be rounding up. So we read 22 because it's 21. And the Sabian symbol for 22 of Libra is a child giving birds a drink at a fountain. The theme is facilitation. The symbol speaks to the unshakable trust in the basic friendliness of the universe, and to a delight in discovering that the world is a place of unlimited opportunity waiting to be explored. The image of a child giving birds a bath at a fountain symbolizes helpfulness, care, and concern for others. The emphasis is on sympathy, little acts of kindness through which personal ideas can be tested, refined, and expressed. The suggestion here is that happiness is found more in giving and reaching out to others than in receiving and gathering to self. At its highest, it represents deeply held belief in the essential goodness of all living things and the genuine joy in sharing. Watch for being superficial or false charity, or concerns with appearances and self-serving efforts to make things look good. The accent is on friendliness and helpfulness, and you're likely to feel especially sympathetic and generous to those who are less fortunate than yourself. Your greatest advantage lies in performing random acts of kindness. Make this day special by surprising a stranger with a gift. You never know how far the results will spread. Guard against trying to buy friendship or doing too much for others, inundating them with what you think they need. Don't be a doormat or invite others to take advantage of you by failing to put a value on your services. Okay, so for me, first of all, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? Like random acts of kindness for strangers, paying it forward. People inherently, for the most part, being good, trying to do good by others. I think this is talking about being more nurturing and highlighting the importance of compassion and care for other people, especially those who might be more vulnerable. I think Venus in Virgo really touches on this in general because it is moving through a sign where it's in its fall. So it does talk about giving sweetness, giving compassion, giving love, and assistance to those who are in need. I also think that this is really symbolizing offering assistance to those who may not ask for it, who aren't expecting it, those who aren't the ones going around asking for handouts, but those who have a great deal of pride, and the pride that we may take in being able to help those who may not feel like they're willing or they're open to ask for assistance. I think the energy of water really is about renewal for me. And it represents emotions and cleansing of feelings. And it might be about rejuvenating your emotional well-being by providing support to other people, and the connection to nature as well, and the environment, and the willingness to, want to connect with the earth, which is also important, having Venus in an earth sign. Obviously for me, I think, the axis of Aries and Libra is really interesting. Obviously we have, all of these planets that are in Libra, but they're conjunct the South Node. And so it does talk a lot about where there can be some kind of good or yummy karma that can come in from the South Node with like relationships, and where people from the past, whether it's our past from years back or our past lives, can be coming back and offering us companionship, support, nurturing, if necessary. So there can be a sense of cashing in on that like karmic goodness. But I think about Aries and how Aries is the counterpart to Libra, And it's very take what I need, you know, focusing on self-sufficient, internal instincts, like just go, go, go. And so it's encouraging us for a moment to not be as consumed with what we are doing, but to kind of reflect on other people and see what other people need. I think a lot of it's going to be about listening to other people as well, because Mercury is going to be close by. And we'll see this actual eclipse point get activated just after the Mercury Cazimi. So there's going to be a lot of learning to communicate with other people, finding balance with other people, learning how to be, you know, diplomatic with others, how to mediate, and how to be able to kind of find the balance. Now that 21 degrees, like I said, in the association with Sagittarius is interesting because that generally has a connection to things that grow. We're going to see what Nicola has to say about this particular degree. There we go. So the Sagittarius degree at 21 is about foreigners, foreign countries, people who are abroad, highways, streets, avenues, everything that's large, broad, or extended. Horses, anything that has to do with tennis players, hips, thigh bones, fashion models, publishing, books, journals, film, art, cinema, video rental, religion, priests or of a religious nature, generals or colonels, voyages, tourism, travel agencies, higher education, university students, studies, professors, wholesale, import, export, or things revolving around the border. So 21 of Libra, so it has that energy of Sagittarius, but it's going to be expressed through Libra. And I think this is going to be a lot about legal situations revolving around immigration globally, right? 21 degrees. We might see a little bit more emphasis on, you know, maybe, you know, things involving education, higher education, colleges, making the news somehow. That's possible. Court cases, court hearings making the news somehow. And a lot more talk about balance and fairness and law, legality, because that's what, you know, the combination of Libra and Sag really kind of brings us. I'm curious to also see what this Mercury conjunction brings, because I do feel like there is some sense of news revolving legal situations that are getting ready to make headlines, and how people are potentially reacting to this, because we're going to see the sun, the moon, and Mercury all in the sign of Libra, which represents balance, come into squares with Pluto just shortly after this eclipse. So it's really going to be highlighting issues with power struggles, corruption, whether or not people are feeling overpowered by top-down structures, bosses, you know, government, or, you know, higher up kind of officials. And what is or is not fair. So you'll see that this is going to be a period of people legally challenging things. Now, in your life, right, Libra energy can be connected to counselors, therapists, business partners, clients, relationships with friends. It really depends on which house Libra falls in for you. But I really encourage you to not just pay attention to the house in which the solar eclipse is taking place, although this is where likely in your life this new beginning, this new start is happening. But I also want you to be paying attention to where Venus is, like I said, because Venus is the ruler of this eclipse. And Venus is in some uncomfortable aspects with an opposition to Saturn. And essentially this can represent a breaking away, a severing, a separating. Now, just days prior to this eclipse, we actually see Saturn come into an opposition with Venus, just as Venus drops into Virgo. And this will be, like I said, before the eclipse, but it's not unusual to see like eclipse related things start happening about a week or so before, or even after. So I'm also wondering if the eclipse energy is really starting as early as about the 10th. Now, you guys have heard me rap on and on about the Venus retrograde and how eventually Venus would go into Virgo after 4 months of being in Leo, and how much of a different energy this is. This is also significant because now the South Node is in Libra. So as we start to see Venus make aspects in the skies, it's going to kind of further be showing us the South Node in Libra theme. And while that's happening, Mars is in close proximity. So there is like a sense of like breaking away, cutting things off, severing, separating in relationships or things that don't feel like it's in balance. So likely you'll feel about a week prior that eclipse kind of start heating up. All right, so then when we look at Libra in general, you know, Libra is the 7th sign of the zodiac. It's a sign that is ruled by Venus. It has associations with intellect, communication, social interactions, and obviously, like I said, its ruling planet is Venus. Not so much like the Taurus connection that is about my resources, my money, my food, my possessions, my values. Libra is more about us, what we do together. But it also is putting an emphasis on love, romantic love, commitment, harmony, beauty, but much more from an intellectual or a social kind of perspective because it is the element of air. Now, traits associated with Libra obviously are balanced, social, diplomatic, charming, right? But we also see themes revolving around being indecisive, you know, sometimes dealing with superficial things, you know, people who are associated with the archetype of Libra are courts, judges, clients, counselors, partners, spouses, marital partners, and open enemies. So these are going to be the themes that we are going to be kind of dealing with a little bit more so generally. Now, a solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes between the earth and the sun, temporarily blocking out the sun's light. And in this case, it's taking place in Libra. So I think that this is going to be bringing themes revolving around balance within relationships and harmony and significant shifts in relationships that lead to new beginnings in matters of these relationships, partnerships, diplomacy, or perhaps even aesthetics. Now, like I said, those of you guys who have strong Libra placements in your birth chart might experience more effects more than others. If you go back in time and you look at about 19 years ago, the last time that we had these eclipses, that was the last time that we had the South Node going through Libra, the North Node going through Aries. You may want to reflect on what was going on during that period and kind of see what was happening in your life because you might see some kind of repetition. So just for those of you guys who want that timeline. It looks like this was taking place round about, let's say, July of 2005 through about June of 2006. Okay, so that was the last time that we saw the South Node going through Libra. So you might want to just maybe do a little bit of like a mental investigation on what was taking place in your life, because it's very possible that you're going to be seeing some kind of similarity in some way, shape, or form. All right. The other thing to watch for is that solar eclipses don't just mark new beginnings, but when the South Node is involved, it might represent kind of a clearing out. So on one hand, it can give you the opportunity to start over something new, but on the other hand, there can be this sense of being like, I don't know, is this working? Is it time to kind of move away from the past? It's going to be really important to be practicing fairness and cooperation. This is going to be a real highlighted theme when it comes to Libra. But like I said, because the ruler is in its fall, it is kind of suggesting, okay, you know, maybe stepping away from something that is not necessarily healthy, especially with Saturn being in a sign that is associated with like Neptune. Things that don't really make sense, or they seem kind of cloudy, or if we're unsure, or if our intuition is making us feel a certain way, or if we're kind of just feeling like, okay, something is off here, it could definitely lead you to making some changes in either your finances or your relationships to someone or something. And Venus-Saturn oppositions oftentimes do represent some kind of breaking apart or severing. Now, when it comes to other topics involving Libra, you know, aesthetic and creative pursuits are a huge theme with eclipses in Libra because of the connection to Libra's appreciation for beauty and aesthetics. It may be highlighted at this time. You may be inspired to explore your creative side or engage in artistic endeavor to enhance your sense of style and aesthetics. Now, in this case, I do feel like with the South Node in Libra, at least from my perspective, I've been observing like a lot of really significant changes in terms of style and fashion. I have noticed with the North Node in Aries that there has been a little bit of a shift in recent months towards what is quick, what is efficient, what is simple, or what is going to be kind of emphasizing, not so much the feminine side of the body, but things that make sense for like getting out and getting around. And I've just seen it being a natal Libra rising, and I have an Aries moon. What's been kind of coming up for me is like simpler ways of, getting ready, doing your hair, having less kind of aesthetic stuff when it comes to bags and getting out and like doing things, looking for things that are going to have purpose or they're going to serve something, without all of like the aesthetic bells and whistles. So kind of moving away from what is like super feminine or what is super superficial, and what we're going into is more of what is North Node in Aries. So it could be athletic, it could be more masculine in its look, right? It could be shorter hairstyles. It could definitely be things that could be more kind of military style, and less kind of like things that are like super feminine. I don't know how else to explain it, but you guys will see this throughout this particular cycle with these eclipses. For you though, it could represent a sense of tapping into your inner artist or creative, or sense of kind of like style, fashionista. There might be something that's coming up for you where you're kind of shifting gears in terms of what you want your aesthetic look to kind of look like. Obviously, balance and harmony is a huge theme here as well, and finding ways to be able to better apply that across the board. So whether that's your work life, financial matters, or just your personal well-being. And it's about making adjustments to kind of restore equilibrium depending on where Libra is in your chart. Now, legal and contractual matters are a huge theme when we see eclipses in Libra, especially with Mercury so close by. I think that this can be strongly connected to legal affairs and contracts. So eclipses in the sign can indicate that there are developments in legal matters, signing of important contracts, negotiations, resolution of legal issues, or a change in legal partnerships. Now, I think like South Node eclipses in general in Libra would be enough for me to be like, yeah, we're going to see collectively there's going to be some changes in relationships, whether it's really famous like bands that have always, worked and collaborated together, or celebrities that have been married for a very long time, or really significant working partnerships that end up kind of dissolving their collaborations. We will see certain relationships shift, because that's what the South Node of Libra is about. It's where we kind of start to break down and dissolve the us to focus more on the me, what I need, what I'm doing. And so naturally, that North Node in Aries kind of kicking in might also be the more work you're doing on yourself, especially with North Node and Chiron, and the more active you're becoming, or the more self-aware you're becoming, or the more that you're kind of becoming more assertive and tuning into just who you are instinctually, you start to see the cracks in relationships with other people. And there can be a sense of being like, okay, can we continue to work together in this relationship? Are both of us doing the work we need to independently to level up and stay connected? So I believe that like real relationships that can weather the storm, that are meant to be, that are truly committed to one another, will be able to do so. But I also believe that this is a time where there are really significant threads of fate that are kind of like, pulling strings. So if it's time to go with a certain connection or relationship, other people may be potentially kind of showing up. And so it wouldn't surprise me with South Node eclipses in Libra and planets coming into a square with Pluto after an extended Venus retrograde that, yeah, we're going to see a lot of people that are going to be separating and, legally filing for separation, or getting divorced, or finalizing divorces, or maybe initiating divorces after periods of time of feeling disconnected. There's no doubt that that's definitely going to be a theme. But there can be other reasons for having, legal stuff. So those of you guys who are dealing with estates, or maybe there's been pending lawsuits and you're waiting for something to go through, these things can be coming up as well. So if you know that this is something that you're currently involved in, or you've been thinking about getting involved in, pay attention with this Mercury connection, because significant meetings or signing of contracts can be going on, or even issuing of court dates with this particular eclipse. Social interactions are going to be a huge theme. Generally, Libra eclipses can be about expanding your social circle, attending events, or connecting with new people, and it's a time for building on relationships. And while I think that there's some truth to this, I kind of feel like with the South Node conjunction, there's a lot of like, who am I ready to kind of cut from the team, right? Like the roster might be super full right now, whether that's friendship-wise or who you're dating. But it could also mean that there is a sense of going, who can I call on? Who was an ally in the past? Who has been there to support me in the past? And is there still a connection there? And can I reach out and make that phone call or send that email? And are they going to continue to still kind of support me or vice versa? So it's a bit of like a double-edged sword there. I do feel like there can be quite a bit of social issues when it comes to communicating with other people. We do see Mercury strongly in opposition to Chiron, so there's definitely going to be this feeling of like the personal wound when it comes to, like going against the grain and speaking out about something, or having those difficult conversations with another person that you don't want to, but you know that you need to because it might potentially set the record straight or clear the air, or finally be about kind of delivering that blow of being like, hey, this isn't working. I think we need to separate. So I do really encourage you guys to focus on listening to other people, not just waiting to talk. There are some difficult aspects in this particular eclipse that does, to me, scream separation in a number of different ways, not just the Venus-Saturn opposition, the Mercury-Chiron opposition, the conjunction to the South Node, the Mars trine Saturn, the planet square Pluto. I mean, eclipses don't just happen one time. Okay, they get triggered several times. So we will see as planets come through Capricorn also later, coming into the new year, this will re-trigger that. And at that time, we're going to see, an exalted Mars go through Capricorn and a stellium of planets go through Capricorn, a retrograde in Capricorn. All of these planets are going to square. And that'll be kind of the midpoint between eclipses before we get to eclipse season next spring. But in essence, 6 months of this potentially unfolding. So sometimes we don't always see immediately the day, the week of the eclipse, what happens. We have to look further down the road, which is why it might be a good idea as you guys listen to this, when you're done, take a look at your chart and look at where Taurus is, because that's where you're going to have a full moon lunar eclipse at the end of October. Just to give you guys, an example, there's been almost, 2 years of eclipses in that part of your chart. This will be the last eclipse. Well, what's been going on with Taurus? The North Node went through there and it was supposed to build and kind of teach you lessons about that. You're completing it. Many of you might look at that area of your chart and go like, wow, there's been a lot of changes happen in that area. There's been a lot of growth and new things, right? Uranus and Jupiter are there. So you could say the same thing about, the South Node eclipses, where the South Node swings, there's connections to the past and then letting go. And it will take about 6 to 12 months to see some of that stuff manifest. So be patient. If this is a new moon that you're setting intentions for new things, be patient. Know that it's going to take a little bit longer to see some of this stuff manifest. Not all new moons and full moons are created equal. This is definitely not your stereotypical, it's a new moon in Libra, so I'm setting relationship intentions because it's conjunct the South Node and like Venus is in opposition to Saturn. Like, this does not scream relationship intention settings to me. This screams, what am I holding on to that I haven't dealt with, that I haven't let go of, that I haven't healed? Who am I still looking at on social media? What am I still obsessing over? What am I still reminiscing about that wasn't healthy for me, that holds me back from love? That's more what this eclipse kind of says to me. And also, what relationships am I engaging in that aren't really honoring me? So take that for what it's worth. If you guys want a good moon to set relationship intentions on, to be honest with you, you're going to get a lot further with other newer full moons. This would not be the one to do it. This is like the cleaning out moon. And obviously with eclipses, there's always this theme of inner growth, right? But what's interesting is that it is involving other people. It's Libra, and the moon is about kind of collectively, we're all in this, melting pot of like, oh, we're, clearing stuff out, cutting things. Mars has been in conjunction to the South Node. I think what this is teaching us is that what we're really angry about is things that we've been complacent about. What we're really frustrated about is how we've allowed other people to treat us, what we've allowed to go on, the fact that it's gone on for so long. And quite frankly, whether it's, you know, being upset about the state of the world, or being upset about a relationship, or being upset about, you know, a broken family relationship, or a disagreement, it's about that we've allowed these things to transpire. We've allowed certain events to get out of hand. Why? Because Libra says, well, let's just make nice and, you know, be nice to each other, and we're good, and kind of smooth over things. It does want to sometimes focus on the companionship aspect, and it doesn't want to disappoint people. It doesn't want to look bad, right? It doesn't want to have a rift with someone. And so there is a sense of really kind of recognizing that if we don't like the dynamics that are going on right now, it's because we've allowed a lot of that to happen. So once again, you have to look at what house this is in, because it may not be a person, it might be a habit, it might be a job. But this eclipse is going to give us the opportunity to focus on inner growth and transformation. And so solar eclipses are about bringing a fresh chapter into our life, allowing an old pattern to kind of fade out, and embracing new opportunities. And I would say for those of you guys who are more kind of wanting to work with this moon, especially when it comes to like intentions and magical related things, it can also be about asking the universe to show you, okay, you know, what needs to go, what needs to actually be eclipsed out of my life. And also setting the intention that it's going to be for what's healthiest for you, what's going to provide you with the most nurturing, the most security, the best health, and keep putting it forth as, you know, whatever is for my highest good, and then clear the path, making it possible for me to be able to receive that. I think sometimes when we set intentions, we forget that, right? We forget that when we're asking for the relationship, the job, the car, the house, the this, the that, we're not always practicing gratitude, building up to inevitably getting those things, right? So that's really important. I think servitude, gratitude, these are words that kind of go with Venus in Virgo. But then two, it's also that in order from getting from, you know, point A to B, there has to be that tower moment. There's clearing that happens in between. And so a lot of people might go, well, I don't understand. It's a new moon in Libra, and that's supposed to be positive, and like, why is this happening? It's going to start to show you the cracks and things that may potentially be superficial relationships, or perhaps things that are needing to kind of fall away because we've gotten lazy, right? That can be one of the lower octave kind of tendencies of Libra. We've become complacent. So more on Virgo and the connection to the sixth house. And I talked a little bit about this in my webinar, but essentially it's interesting for me to see Venus go through Virgo, you know, the sign that is associated with the Virgin. Also that connection to Venus sixth house or sixth house energy, you know, an energy that was associated with slavery, servants, and personal illness. In medieval times, you know, illness was seen as like a curse that came as the consequences of sinful behavior. When in reality, I think what Venus in Virgo teaches us from a modern astrologer perspective is that health and illness are pathways to what our body needs to learn, right? Or what this particular house, you got to look at where Virgo is, needs to learn. And Venus in Virgo is about the mind-body connection and the fact that mind, right, because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, influences the matter. So we see a really strong opposition between the ruler, Venus, and Saturn is in the sign that deals with things that are hidden and kind of, you know, spiritual, or stuff that's behind the scenes, or kind of in secrecy, or stuff maybe that's like hiding in your subconscious. And then we've got Venus that's moving through, you know, the part of the skies that's very literal, it's earthy, it's practical. So we might be realizing that, you know, there are things that are taking place. There are powers beyond us that are interfering in a way to kind of remove something so we can heal. It can also mean that there are unexpected, out of the blue, financial fallouts or relationship fallouts or health-related things that can come from this particular eclipse. And so I do think that that is possible, especially seeing two eclipses this fall that has Venus in its fall. And so, you know, Venus being in this particular house does have a bit of like a negative kind of reputation, but in reality, it's really trying to teach us about service. maintenance, taking care of our body and making sure that we're doing everything that we need to keep it functioning, balancing all of the various systems in our body and also all of our routines. So things revolving around cleaning up the diet, sleep, healthcare, wellness. This, after all, is a sign of problem solving. Mercury, Virgo energy wants to break something down, take it apart, clean it up, figure out what's wrong. Managing systems also, health issues, ailments, and habits. And so as we see that opposition to Saturn, it's going to be about our limits and our boundaries, how much we're willing to sacrifice for love, how much we're willing to sacrifice for a job, how much we're willing to sacrifice when it means to taking care of and providing, at what cost? At the cost of our health, our mental health, our physical health, our financial health. And where it wants us to really pay attention is really kind of cleaning something up within the Virgo area of your chart. So really tending to that, taking care of that, getting practical, willing to kind of do the work to better support what's going on with Libra. It's interesting to watch also Venus, leave Leo and go into Virgo. It's moving out of kind of like that egocentric me type of energy into, okay, maybe we've been overdoing it a little bit. Now it's time to kind of clean something up. And what Venus in Virgo at least teaches me is about experiencing the sacred in the everyday life, in the mundane, ritualizing the ordinary, meaning and purpose, making anything sacred through total focus and declaration, work as in a daily routine, office spaces, schedule, and management, and how we can bring more love to that. Loving in a practical way. I'm always really quick to talk to my clients about love languages and how love languages work, and how really knowing your love language and your partner's love language is so important. Prime example, especially if you're somebody who's got Venus in the 6th house or Venus in Virgo, that love is an act of service. And so it may not look the same as it does for other people. Love is straightening your spouse's, collar or their tie, or, cleaning up your kid's face, or, maybe giving your dog a bath. Not your typical ways that everybody may receive or see love. It may not be the same as getting an expensive gift, or, perhaps maybe a real lavish kind of like date, right? But Venus in Virgo knows that love is about actions and kindness and taking care of somebody or something, especially when they're sick. And so this is where we're really going to start to see what relationships are truly made of. As the South Node swings through Libra, we see Venus in Virgo in opposition to Saturn. A lot of people are going to be looking at their vows that they had to their significant others and being like, okay, through sickness and in health, am I really going to stand by this person's side? If they get really sick, am I going to stay with them? Am I going to tend to them and take care of them? Are they going to do that for me? If one of us loses our job, or if the other one is potentially put in a situation where if they don't comply with what's being asked of them, they'll lose their job. Do they still have the support of their partners, of their family? Do they have legal support? You guys kind of get what I'm saying. There's going to be a lot of that stuff that's going to start happening. And with Venus being in her fall, or planets, I guess I should say, being in their fall, just generally speaking, it means that their expression is being challenged. So when a planet is in detriment or fall, the typical qualities and characteristics generally don't manifest as naturally, as easily as they would in a sign that it's more comfortable with. So the energies of that planet can feel kind of somewhat out of place, and it's awkward in terms of how it's trying to help someone. So for example, Venus, sweetness, kisses, affection, love, flowers, romance, money, right? And so, Venus through Virgo, it's like, I love you, here's some soup. You're sick. I made this for you. I folded your laundry. I cleaned the house. I picked up your book bag from school. I, took it upon myself to reorganize your side of the closet. Things that don't sound like the most romantic, but quite literally might be the things that we really need. It's about showing love in a way that is down to earth and practical, and coming off of what's been just such a roller coaster all summer of Venus square Uranus and Venus square Jupiter. So for some of you guys, this is that ending period where you're kind of maybe reflecting on, now that you don't have something, was the grass actually greener? Or are you coming off of finally ripping off the Band-Aid and like kind of cutting something or someone off, and now you're moving through that? Tension and discomfort comes with, you know, a planet that's in its fall. There can be a sense of tension in trying to express the qualities associated with the planet in a sign where it's in detriment, and it may require more effort and conscious, you know, adjustment. So trying harder in relationships, trying to be more practical about how to navigate things. Venus in Virgo, I always say to these people, you know, sharing schedules, merging schedules, working out together, you know, organizing the house together, cleaning the house together. These can be things that can be really helpful during this time as a way of being able to show like a common appreciation for one another. But I also see planets in their fall as a learning opportunity because planets that are in this position are seen as areas of personal growth and development. So if you have a planet in detriment, it just says, hey, this needs to be worked on. We need to balance this out and integrate these energies in a different way. So really pay attention to the days even leading up to the eclipse as you start to see this opposition setting up. We might start to kind of realize, hey, we're at our breaking points in some things financially or in some relationships. That comes up and it allows us to sit down and be able to practice kind of like that mediation technique and finding the balance and trying to find like a way to remedy this. So leading up to this, just want to kind of give you guys the step-by-step. So we're going to have first that opposition, okay, let me show you, between Venus and Saturn. So that's going to be happening on the 10th, Venus-Saturn opposition. And you're definitely going to feel it because the moon's going to activate this and Mars is at 29 degrees. So we see two critical things going on with the North and the South node ruler. Then on the 18th, I guess I should say the eclipse, right? Then on the 14th, we have the solar eclipse when the sun and the moon come together here. And then on the 18th, we're going to see Mercury conjunct the South node. And the sun will have conjuncted it as well. But interesting to see so many planets hit the South node here. Actually, those might both happen on the same day. Let's look. Yeah, kind of, sort of. The 18th, the sun will hit the South node first. So it's like a releasing, a letting go. 24, dissolving something, some relationships, a lot of relationship karma stuff kind of playing out. And then hours later, Mercury hits the South node. That's kind of spooky. Yeah, it's going to be like late at night, early morning. But the 18th, Sun and Mercury both in a conjunction to the South node. Wow. And then we're going to see the Sun-Mercury Cazimi. And this will be taking place on the 20th. And this will be at 26 degrees. Yeah. There we go. So Mercury's got to pull ahead of the sun on the 20th. Okay, so 14th, 18th, 20th. These are really significant days. And this is when the sun and Mercury come into conjunction, and it's going to highlight some kind of epiphany or some kind of like an awareness. So what was interesting is that Mercury was behind the sun when this happened. So it's kind of like, it's suggesting more or less that some kind of information is getting ready to be released. I guess you could even go as far as saying when Mercury hits 21, there will be a reactivation as well. That'll be on the 17th. But there's so many things between the 14th and the 20th. It's just almost every day something is still going on that's connecting to this eclipse. But like I said, eclipses do get activated when planets come into conjunction. So it's going to be right here, right? And you know, even leading up to this, there's still other activations going on with the other eclipse points, because if you guys remember, in April of this year, we had a solar eclipse in Aries that was 29 degrees. Well, here we go. Mars is going to make the opposition, and then we're going to start coming into the solar eclipse that's going to be taking place on the 14th. So such big energies that are kind of emerging right now, and a lot of what's happening with the clear out with planets hitting 29 of Libra, which is, you know, an anaretic degree. That's a critical degree. That's also a degree that does have connections and association with offsetting the balance in relationships, separations, divorces, and it's getting ready to wrap up Libra and go into Scorpio, which is about that death, rebirth, regeneration. So I could definitely see Scorpio season being a lot about that. And then we'll start to see planets make oppositions to Taurus, where there's a lot of back and forth with, I've made the break. How am I, responding to this? How am I rebounding from this? And what is yours and what is mine? And how do we settle, our physical or our financial differences? So yeah, there's a lot of this brewing. What's interesting for me is, like I said, like that Mercury behind the sun, and how it might be that there's maybe some kind of news right before the eclipse, because it does look like the last aspect that the moon is going to make is a conjunction to Mercury. So emotionally connecting, sharing some kind of information, idea, talking with somebody, it's intellectual, which will make an opposition to Chiron. And then we come into the solar eclipse energy. So this will be the same day as the eclipse. And then we're going to see Mercury kind of emerge on the other side. Now, when Mercury is in conjunction to the South Node, there is a need to reflect on the past, on past communication. Maybe it's bringing up old memories, situations, people from your past, things that you once learned, information sharing. You can find yourself reflecting on past conversations or past ways of thinking. That's another way of looking at it. And revisiting old ideas. So I definitely think there can be a sense of like, okay, clearing out all of the text messages, like getting rid of, emails and, old conversations that you had with people, rereading old love letters. Like that might be something that you do actually. And also opportunities to have like some kind of connection to karmic insights, because the South Node is connected to South Node karma from the past. And during this transit, you may gain insight into past behaviors, communication patterns, and realize what's been holding you back, what's been limiting you. And yeah, connecting with people, sure, friends, family, acquaintances, teachers, mentors. This can definitely come up with, Mercury conjunct the South Node, therapist as well. We can be a little bit more nostalgic and sentimental because that does come up with dealing with the past. But I encourage you guys to be mindful of getting stuck in that, getting stuck in situations that could be detrimental of your present or your future, and really embrace the opportunity to do some kind of mental cleanup. Clearing mental clutter is like a huge theme with this conjunction of letting go of outdated beliefs and thought patterns or communication styles that no longer serve you. And it can help you recognize how to better communicate with other people. As much as I hate to say it, something about this makes me feel like it stems from a bit of like a conflict or a riff, as if that's not already in the skies enough. But because the moon and Mercury will oppose Chiron right before the eclipse, there can be some kind of thing that can come up. And then a couple of days later, as we have the Cazimi on the 18th, there's a reflecting on how a conversation went and realizing like, ooh, probably shouldn't have done that, shouldn't have said that. And then you're kind of realizing how to handle things better. And all of this gives us the opportunity to be aware of potential miscommunications and misunderstandings in advance, not falling into the traps of this, and learning from the past, and using this transit as an opportunity to learn from past situations when things come up. And this also might be if somebody's asking you questions about the past, or if you're talking about the past, or if you're sharing information, learning how to better handle these situations, and deciding what it is that you would like to take with you into the future. Now, questions that I would recommend asking yourself during this eclipse would be, do I still align with this partnership or this collaboration? It could be, maybe you've hired a new employee at work who's supposed to be your assistant. Maybe you've been in a relationship for a long time and you're at a crossroads. Maybe you're having a difficult time with a client, or maybe deciding whether or not you want to make a change with your counselor or your therapist. It doesn't really matter. If it's not a person, it can be your relationship to a certain thing. So look at which house Libra is in, because that's where you're reevaluating a relationship to that particular house theme. But you also would benefit by asking yourself, do you still want to invest in a specific relationship or partnership, right? Not just do you align, but what more do I want to invest in terms of this? Is it possible that you're growing apart from someone or something? Is it possible that they're stunting your growth? Are you willing to change your mind or let go of repetitive thoughts? Are you becoming complacent? Are you too comfortable? Are you worried about what other people might say? If so, if you make a change. So are you worried about what other people might say if you potentially make a change? Let's say you decide not to take a job. Are you worried that, that company is going to be upset? If you decide to quit a current job, are you worried that they're gonna, be kind of stuck without you and not want to let you go and have a difficult time if you were to kind of move on to a better position? So these are things that I would think about, depending, like I said, on which house this plays out in. And I think one of the big things that comes up is like where there may be some things that we know we shouldn't say, or some conversations that we know if we bring them up, it's going to cause a bit of like a relationship rift, and that we may be too concerned with what other people think. And we should not be as concerned about what other people think. There is a need to really step up and have conversations, especially if something is creating or causing some kind of wound. Are we participating in relationships for superficial reasons? Because they're wealthy, because they're well known, because we don't want to be seen as alone, because you've invested so much time in a relationship, right? Because your self-esteem is very much connected to the relationship and being wanted. And if you are participating in relationships for the wrong reasons, why? Why do you feel like you do that? How can you be more self-focused, less consumed with media or with what other people are doing? These are things that I would be asking myself during this particular eclipse. These are things I'm asking myself during this eclipse as a Libra rising personally, because I definitely think that, some of this stuff applies to me as well. All right, so another major theme that you're going to see is that a lot of these planets, the moon, Mercury, the sun, they're all eventually going to come into a square with Pluto, okay? And this is a hard 90-degree angle. This is a closing square, which means like shift is hitting the fan. Pluto in Capricorn deals with power, long-standing power, control, manipulation, sometimes things that can be toxic, that hold some kind of like something over your head, right? That's the best way to explain it. And it depends where it is for you. Obviously, Pluto in Capricorn generally does talk about people or things that have always had some kind of like an effect on you, or it scared you, or it made you feel threatened in some way. Capricorn is a sign that deals with elders. It does deal with, governments and top-down structures, but it could also be a parent. It depends on where it is in your chart. And these planets coming into a square with Pluto just basically spell out there has been power struggles, okay? The first square we actually saw was with Mars, and you guys have kind of are coming into that square right now. So where planets in Libra are squaring Pluto in Capricorn is power struggles with authority, and quite frankly, I think just generally out in the world, realizing that life is not fair, that there are things that are going on that's not fair, that's not legal, it's not in balance, and realizing that liberty comes at a cost. And we're going to see that there is a need to push back or push against or stand up to abuse, standing up to corruption, standing up to where power is being misused, where it's being used to control people. And I think you're going to hear about this a lot in courtrooms and through, certain displays that are going on in the legal system. This is where anger erupts for good reason, right? Pluto-Mars squares are like volcanic. When they do come together, it is angry, it's violent, it's all over the place, and it can cause some kind of like meltdown. And so while it's not exact, it's a separating square, we still see it formulated, kind of baked into this eclipse, and then we'll see planets continue to move through Libra and square even after the fact. So we might see angry meltdowns, eruptions, and I think that this is finally getting to the point where it's taking this for people to kind of wake up and realize like, oh, this is an imbalance, or this isn't working for me, or, there isn't a sense of law and order, right? Like that's literally what Libra is about. Venus in detriment in opposition to Saturn and Pisces, like I said, health and community, food, healthcare specialists, women in healthcare. Venus is technically at a 5 during the time of the eclipse. So I think it's going to be about heartbreak. I think it's going to be about heart-related issues with children, because 5 is kids. I think this is going to be about pediatricians. Capricorn and Saturn in general both deal with people who are in control, people who, you know, make decisions about what is and is not rules and regulations. And so we see this opposition where it's going to potentially have some real strong effects on rules revolving around food, rules revolving around healthcare, around service, around also the service industry. And Venus is not happy where she is. So it may indicate that there's going to be rules about who can participate in society. We might see a return to, you need to have this if you want to go into a theater, if you want your kids to go to school, if you want to be able to, you know, eat in this cafe, if you want to be able to go and do things. I think this is an indication that some of these things within 6 months might potentially rear its head again. And I'm curious to see something about women in healthcare, obviously Venus, and laws and rights revolving around healthcare as well. And obviously, like I said, in the background, all of this karmic stuff, because there are lots of like threads of fate situations that are going on. So lots of changes that are going on with karmic relationships. Some people are clocking out. They're done with their lessons when it comes to what you guys have been doing or working on together. Other people are kind of clocking in. But all of this clearing out is in preparation for next spring, when we start to see solar eclipses in Aries, when the North Node and Chiron are conjunct. Maybe we've worked through our stuff, we've healed stuff, we're in a better place. Maybe that's when also, you know, we have kind of built ourselves back up to like where we are now. So a lot of you guys might be actually spending, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, the fall and winter months and going into a period of hibernation and healing, only to kind of reemerge and be reborn in the spring, right? How appropriate with some of those solstices and equinox kind of timelines. It's pretty bang on. All right, well, let me take you guys through the 12 signs. I want to show you where this is taking place for each and every one of them. If you want to be looking at Placidus, if you're a Placidus user, you need to be looking at which house 21 degrees of Libra is in. You might have to listen to more than one house. Please listen for your rising, sun, and moon sign. You know, eclipses deal with the moon, right? This is an eclipse that involves the sun and the moon in conjunction. So I would be listening to all three. I think you're going to see a lot of truth come through all three of these. I like to listen to my rising sign first because it tells me in what area of my life the eclipse is going to be in. Then I listen to my sun sign. Then I listen to my moon sign. That's just me. And this will be whole Western astrological predictions for the sake of this video, just to make it easy for you guys, okay? So I will take you through this. Let me change this out so we can look at the 12 signs real quick. All right. So we are going to start first with Aries and Aries rising. You guys are my first bunch. So we're going to talk about this solar eclipse in Libra. So this is going to be taking place in your natal 7th house. And as a reminder, like I said, this is the first one that you've seen in about 18 and a half years. So solar eclipse in the 7th house. This is going to be putting an emphasis on relationships, partnerships, collaborations. They will all be taking center stage. It can indicate a need to release old relationship patterns or issues to make room for healthier connections. Now, at the time of this particular eclipse, you have Venus, which rules the 7th house, in the 6th. So it might mean that you're reestablishing new or clearing out or making changes with relationships to healthcare practitioners, right? 6th house. Women in the workplace, it might be about something involving, you know, a relationship that you have to a coworker. It could also be about, you know, whether or not you're needing to work out some kinks in an existing relationship. This can be about like service of some kind. So it could also mean that you're having issues with an employee. Maybe you're making changes also, and like talking to your partner about where you're feeling like relationships are out of balance. Those of you guys who are single, there is a lot of emphasis obviously on you this year, but it can sometimes bring people from the past back. And it can also give you the opportunity to kind of connect with people who might be at the gym or might be at like the laundromat, or it might be somebody that you meet when you're going and like running errands, because Venus happens to be in the 6th house. Now, I would recommend meditating on and focusing on attracting loving partnerships, finding equal balance and give and take in relationships, and setting intentions about being in harmony with other people. I think this is going to be the primary focus for you, Aries, as you move through this particular eclipse. So let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I get for you is the Ten of Coins. Amazing card. For me, I think this is like, you know, your health is your wealth, right? Venus in the 6th. Realizing that maybe you're more so willing to invest in your health, or realizing that in order for you to be productive and to feel good and to feel healthy and capable of doing all the things that you want to do and to produce, that it is important for you to also make sure that you're in relationships, or your relationship dynamics are healthy and not weighing heavily on you. It might mean that you're willing to invest a little bit more money into relationships going the distance. So, I could see lots of Aries risings in relationships being like, we need to go to therapy and I'm investing in that. Or it might mean that I'm investing in my health. I'm willing to get like a trainer, or I'm talking to a dietitian, somebody who can kind of help you focus on some of your long-term goals when it comes to your health and your balance, okay? Good luck, Aries. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. You are going to be experiencing a solar eclipse in Libra. This will be taking place in your natal 6th house. For you, Taurus, this is interesting because it does put an emphasis on health, work, routines. It also has you focusing on the need to address and release old habits or work-related patterns that are no longer serving you or your well-being. So remember, the South Node is involved here. This is what you let go of. This is what you're no longer holding on to. At the time of this eclipse, Venus, which is also your ruler, is in Virgo, so it's in the 5th house. On one hand, yes, it's in its fall, so it's not as comfortable, but on the other hand, it does make me feel like, especially if you're an early degree Taurus, Sun, Moon, or Rising, the trines from Venus in a sister sign are actually quite positive. It depends on your situation. I do think that a lot of the Saturn-Venus opposition can be challenging because there is a sense of your hard work and your dedication to a significant, relationship, a child, your own business. Something is actually kind of keeping you away from friends or from socializing or from connecting to some of your bigger goals. So I think that what this is really saying is that there needs to be a sense of making changes in your schedule. You need to make time for the things that you love, for the people that you love. Even if that means that you need to adjust your schedule, get off work earlier, get up earlier in the morning, maybe take a day off once a month. Maybe you're, saying to your partner or somebody at work, I need some help and assistance making this possible because I need to make more time for the things that I love. I would be reminding myself regularly, especially because there are 2 eclipses that are really impacting your health and your body with the eclipses this month, that you are in perfect health, that you serve with love, that you create harmony in your daily life. Keep putting up your warm and fuzzy pink auric shield to really protect your physical body, because you're going to have an eclipse 2 weeks later that will be in your 1st house. So this, for me, the health, body, habits are all 1st and 6th house things. Just as an example, I'm diehard Packer fan. Really sad to see Aaron Rodgers leave the Packers and go to the Jets. Watch him play his 1st game this last week or 2, and no more than I think maybe 15 minutes into the game has an injury, and I'm sitting there how is this happening? Looked at his chart, sure enough, Taurus rising. So as he's coming into the eclipses in his 1st and his 6th house, he has an injury, and now he's obviously having to kind of be taken off and he can't really play. So just a prime example of where, overdoing it, overworking too much in the 6th house can potentially promote injury. So you really, really want to be taking care of your physical body, Taurus. All right, so let's take a look here. What's going on with your cards? What should you expect from this eclipse? The card that you get is the Page of Cups. I love this for you. Taurus, there could be a Cancer, a Scorpio, or a Pisces in your life. that's helping take care of you, helping nurture you, helping you focus on your emotions, giving you support, offering you some kind of love, some affection, some appreciation. This can also be from a younger person. So it's interesting that you have the eclipse, but Venus is in your 5th. So could it be a younger child? Could it be getting in touch with your inner child? Is it healing the inner child? Is it learning how to play and be like a little bit more sensitive and emotional and open? So really it's talking to you about the relationships that you have either to a person or to your younger self, and being more aware of some of the feelings that are coming up right now and kind of paying attention to what they're telling you. All right, Taurus, good luck. Let me know what happens. I'll see you next month after all of these eclipses. All right, so we have Gemini and Gemini rising. What's going on, Gemini? Well, you're going to be having a solar eclipse in Libra, in a fellow sister sign. This will be taking place in your 5th house. If you're a Gemini sun, moon, or rising, especially like, let's say 20 to 22 degrees, you'll be experiencing a pretty direct trine, which is very harmonious for your chart because Libra is a fellow air sign. Now, the eclipse will be taking place in your 5th, which is highlighting creativity, self-expression, romantic relationships, and children. It may be prompting you to let go of old creative blocks and patterns that you may have when it comes to happiness, when it comes to love or creativity. Now, at the time of the eclipse, the ruler, Venus, is in your 4th house. So really what this is highlighting is that there is a need to play, to get creative at home. Paint the walls, do hobbies, hang out with your kids, play games. Like there's something there that's going to bring more opportunity for sweetness into your life. Maybe creating some date nights at home can be a way of doing it. Maybe it's about spending time in your childhood home, or going through like old pictures, or spending time with family. But Venus in the 4th house is a pretty sweet way to be able to experience this particular transit. Sometimes I see with eclipses here that it brings you the opportunity to find something or someone that you would fall in love with. So it might be a new hobby, it could be a person, it can be, for those of you guys who are thinking about, having a family or having more kids, this is a really wonderful time to start setting intentions revolving around that, because it's planting a seed about 5th house, which is what you take chances on and ultimately what you give life to, right? So if you're single, it's looking good for relationships. Those of you guys who are already committed, building on that in a way where you could do that more with the home and more with other people within your home, and finding things that kind of make your heart sing, and maybe going back to old hobbies. So my recommendation is to really focus on letting creativity shine, remaining open to love, expressing your true self with confidence. And I think that this is also giving you the opportunity to just learn to take chances on things. Like you might find that stuff comes back to you from your childhood that you haven't done in a while. Like I've noticed this with South-Node eclipses with clients. If you were always into, playing certain games or collecting things or going to certain sporting events or things like that, you might have experiences that bring you back to your childhood, which can be quite amazing. And it might be something you do with another person because, Libra is involved. So it might be something that you do with your partner. Like if you're like, hey, I want to take you back to my hometown and show you my old stomping grounds. Or maybe it's like you have a kid and it's the first time that you take your kid to Disneyland or something like that, that's going to kind of bring you back to when you were younger and really open you up to learning how to be happy and how to play again. All right, so let's take a look. Let's see what these cards say. Ooh, that card jumped out. Of course it did. This is the Lover's card. So it's great. I mean, across the board, this is great. This can mean that there are options and choices in love that you might be feeling like you're trying to decide, what it is that you want or who it is that you want. This is also a card that comes up that talks about passionate connection. It can talk about soulmates. It can talk about finding that divine counterpart. This is also the card of Gemini. So it does talk about learning how to communicate in a way that's more romantic. So maybe you're voicing more and talking more about what it is that you love, especially as Mercury is coming into conjunction with this eclipse, and then we're going to have the Cazimi. I could see this being like announcements of pregnancy because Mercury rules your 1st house. I could see this also be like some major big accomplishment or some kind of change for one of your children if you have kids, okay? Enjoy this eclipse, Gemini. It looks a little extra sweet for you, to be honest. All right, we got Cancer and Cancer rising. You will be experiencing a solar eclipse in Libra in your natal 4th house. Okay, Cancer, so you know the deal. It's going to be a little bit more intense for you, especially if you're a Cancer rising 20, 21, 22 degrees, because you will be experiencing a square at the time of the eclipse. Now, new moon eclipses are setting new intentions. So sometimes with the new moon solar eclipse in the 4th house, it's setting the intention for new homes, changes with your current home, moving, something involving one of your parents. Somehow home, family, and emotional security come into focus. So you may be working on resolving issues relating to your past family dynamics or creating a much more nurturing home environment. At the time of this eclipse, Venus, which is the ruler, is in your 3rd house. So it can talk about relationships that you have with female relatives like siblings, aunts, cousins. It can also be talking about potentially something going on involving moving. So that's possible as well, because the 3rd house is movement, communications, documents as well. And, you know, this squares your ascendant. So it can indicate that there's a lot of emotions coming up about the past. There is some huge significant change maybe for one of your parents as well. Now, Libra represents partnerships with other people. So there can also be a sense of getting news about somebody moving in, somebody coming to visit, somebody moving out, hearing some kind of complaint from a neighbor, some issue with a landlord. These things can happen, especially in the forms of phone calls, emails, or documents. I do feel like for you, what it's basically saying is it's okay to let go of the past now, because the South Node is swinging through there. I can say when I had this experience recently, when it was in Capricorn for me a couple years ago, I didn't move. I was in a situation where it was a lot more of like dealing with the past and things relating to family. And then by the end of that transit, a year and a half later, I was like, you know what? I think I've done everything I need to do here. Like I'm ready to go, but it was on my own terms. So unless you're experiencing some really strong squares to Pluto, like if you're like a later degree Cancer, perhaps maybe it can be more of a pressing issue in terms of like a change with your home that's uncomfortable. But this can actually just be more like, okay, you know, do we need to like check in on grandma? Do I need to go back and visit? You know, do I want to rearrange the furniture? Is it time to move into a new apartment type of vibe? I would encourage you to be reminding yourself that you are safe, okay? You're rooted in your home. You are nurtured by your family, or if you are living on your own, you don't have family, that you are your own parent and providing emotional security and love, and that you are emotionally balanced. That's what you want to be telling yourself right now, so you can kind of weather some of the things that are going on as the South Node swings through here. Pay attention, because likely as Mercury comes into conjunction, it might be that you're reconnecting with a family member or relative that you haven't spoken to for some time. And maybe you're just thinking about making a change aesthetically with your space. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. But you know, especially because you're kind of the sign that's missing, because we've got stuff in Aries, we got stuff in Capricorn, we got stuff in Libra. To be honest with you, like I feel like Cancers are right up there with Libras in terms of the effects of this particular eclipse. You guys are definitely going to be feeling this. So for some of you, it might be creating a grand cardinal cross, which may feel like there's something changing on the home front that has to change in order for the whole wheel to kind of move, right? Of course, I was waiting for somebody to get this card. I was like, who's it going to be? It's you. You get the Justice card. So this is about justice being served, karma, cause and effect, balance. If there is some relationship issues coming up with people that you live with, or perhaps finally, you know, kind of clearing out relationships from the past, it's like time to do that. And some of the relationships or the relationship issues or the changes with your home that's coming up is somehow related to karma from the past that needs to kind of be cleared out. So I know some of you guys may, I hope not, but some of you guys may be having some relationship issues, which is prompting stuff that's going on with the change on the home front. But it's about rebalancing the scales, right? The Justice card is about saying like, okay, let's get everything kind of centered up so you're no longer feeling like you're kind of swinging. Anyway, good luck. Let me know what happens, Cancer. I will see you for the next eclipse. We got Leo and Leo rising. You're going to be experiencing a solar eclipse in Libra. This will be taking place in your 3rd house. which is all about communication, relationships with siblings, close neighbors. Old thought patterns or communication styles might need to be addressed or transformed in some way. Very interesting because, first of all, Libra is, friendly when it comes to your sign. So you do experience some sextiles to your sign. Obviously, you're ruled by the sun, so solar eclipses really impact you. So for the sun to be in conjunction to the moon, and then you see like Mercury hovering nearby, it does look like there is an impending conversation or situation that's coming. Maybe it's a document, maybe it's a lease, maybe it's buying a vehicle, maybe it's, discussing something about money and resources with a partner or somebody doing that with you. Now, at the time of the eclipse, the ruler, Venus, is in your second house, which basically means you are taking stock in what you have, right? It's like, okay, how is my finances? What do I have? How's my resources? Blah, blah, blah. And while you're doing that, Saturn's on the opposite side, which rules your seventh house. So I could see some Leos or Leo risings that are kind of weighing their options, like, does it make sense for me to move in with my partner? Is it going to be better for us financially? Are they going to be able to kind of cover things? Or if you're traveling with another person, you guys talking about the cost or the expenses and what is your financial obligation, what's theirs. It might mean that you're looking at potentially selling a vehicle, getting rid of a vehicle, making some extra cash, and there is a bit of like striking a bargain with another person with what you want for it versus what they'll give you, because the third house is vehicles. So I could see some of you guys selling your car, trading it in, or giving up something revolving around that. I would be reminding myself that your mind is clear, and this is a time where it's really important to communicate in a way that is compassionate, and to be communicating in a way that is about embracing, changing your mind, or being open to other people changing their mind, or, being flexible when it comes to some kind of shift in terms of like how you communicate with another person. To me, this seems like it's much more about negotiation than other signs. And I don't know who you're going to be negotiating with, but it is possible that other people might be telling you, oh, I don't have this, or I don't have enough of that, or I need more of this. And it's going to be about whether or not you're going to be the person to make the sacrifice, right? To say, I'll cover it, or I'll pay for it, or, I'll do this if you do that. And you have to kind of find the middle ground. I also feel like with the sun being involved and then Mercury hits that, perhaps maybe right around the time that the Sun-Mercury cazimi happens around the 18th, you get your answer. So it's like the eclipse might prompt having this conversation, and then you get your answer a couple days later. And just focus on keeping your mind clear, and be mindful of anything that you're signing, anything that you're agreeing to, any documents you get, leases that you get, stuff like that, because that's going to be very important at the time of the eclipse. All right, so let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say for you. I get the Four of Cups. For me, this is a card of like getting upset because you're feeling left out, right? Or you're feeling as if like nothing is quite making you feel fulfilled, or it's hard to kind of please you. I think of like the Four of Cups and this South Node transit as being like, well, why didn't you invite me? Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you say something to me? Like there can be a sense of feeling disconnected or not included. And really what this is showing you is that there's a need to speak out, to say something. Like if you're not hearing from somebody, call them, right? Participate, because the sun is very much involved in this particular transit. So it is important for you to be the one who's making the connections and like reaching out and talking to people. And it can be about reconnecting and going to visit people, or calling them and setting up, plans to be able to see them if you haven't been able to see them in some time, so you're not feeling as disconnected or disappointed, okay? Good luck. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. You will be experiencing a solar eclipse in Libra in your natal second house. This is a house that deals very much with money, possessions, finances, resources, and self-worth. All of these topics are going to be highlighted for you. Now is a really good time during the eclipse to reevaluate your relationship with money and material possessions. And likely it'll manifest as a time where you're releasing attachments to what truly does not matter to you. Really interesting, because although this is an eclipse in Libra, you are kind of like the behind the scenes like you're like the vice president of this eclipse. Like Libra's like the one who's definitely, you know, in charge right now. But you're seeing a lot that's kind of coming through Virgo as well. So you're kind of co-ruling this, you're signing on for that. So what does it mean? Well, both of the eclipses are going to be impacting you because the ruler is going to be in your sign. So while there's changes with the South Node in the second house where you might cut back on something you're eating, you might let go of some gift that somebody gave you a long time ago that you used to date, you might decide that you're ready to sell something, you might see some kind of cut in your resources, but it provides you with a gain down the road. It really depends. But yeah, these are all things you are going to be doing because Venus is in your sign, right? And Venus rules your belief, philosophy, education, and travel, and your possessions. So this is going to be about what you're changing in regards to your personal self-esteem, your spending habits, your beliefs about relationships. Like this is all getting cleared out. So you have so many planets that are kind of sitting here at the time of the eclipse that it's hard that it's not going to be about money and possessions. But I think that it's going to be, because it's cerebral, it's air, it's going to be about letting go of people maybe that have been taking up too much space for you mentally. I'm looking at Mars also in your third. I think this can also be an opportunity for you to say, you know what, I'm spending too much money on this and, you know, I don't really value this thing anymore. So like, let me stop spending money on this and let me focus more on, you know, what actions I can take to save more, right? North Node is in your eighth. It can also be about paying off debt. It can be about investing. It can be about, you know, inheritance or spousal support. So there might be a sense of like realizing like, oh, I don't have to pay as much for this thing now. You know, now life's a little bit easier. I got a settlement or I've got the support of a partner. I would be reminding yourself constantly that you attract abundance to you, that resources are endless and that you're grounded and that you're secure. And doing it in a way that's very earthy, right? Venus in Virgo is like eating healthy food, planting a garden, wearing and using your crystals, doing some kind of healing work, right? It's about spiritual cleansing. So it's going to be a lot that you're going to personally be doing. And, you know, I had this transit last year. I have the last 2 years. I have 4 planets in my second house. And as the South Node went through there, I was like giving books away and like getting rid of stuff. And generally, you know, what you have when you have the South Node go through here with eclipses is you let things go because new things are coming in. While those eclipses were coming in, I suddenly had the opportunity to move. And I was like, within 6 weeks, like, okay, you know, we're moving and just getting rid of stuff. And so it was actually quite therapeutic going through things and realizing there are certain things that I've kept for a long time that somebody else would love more than me. So it felt good to give those things away. And so, you know, perhaps you're going to have some of the same opportunities, but it doesn't always have to be physical things. It can be old ways of like thinking. And perhaps I think Libra, things that other people have given you that you're like, I don't need the karmic attachment to this anymore. Okay. So you're releasing yourself from attachments to what truly do not matter, and you're reinvesting in yourself. And so this is still a good opportunity to set intentions around money and resources, but that may come with something that you're willing to separate yourself from. The card that I get is the Three of Wands. So I think there is some truth to the story that I was telling you, because this is about being on your way, getting moving, going on an adventure, being lighter, right? So it's like kind of looking at things and going like, okay, I have to really prioritize what I really want to hold on to and what I'm willing to part with because I need a lighter load. Mars is going into your third house. So it might mean that you're springing on a new car. It might mean that you're, you know, getting rid of a bunch of stuff because you're getting ready to relocate or move. It really depends. But something about being on the move and knowing that you've got a plan and going on an adventure and making it easier for you to actually get to where you want to go. You know, if it's not moving or traveling, it could very well be that you're like, I need to get the show on the road with like cutting back some of my expenses. So Mars in your third house is, well, cutting back on expenses relating to services, subscriptions, things involving, you know, your vehicle, cars, things like that. So you might be trying to find ways that you can save money in those departments so that way you feel like you have a little bit more cash in your pocket. That is very possible. Good luck, Virgo. We've got Libra and Libra rising. What's up, Libra? Welcome to a solar eclipse in your sign. So if you're a sun, moon, or rising, it does not matter anything. 20, 21, 22, 23 degrees, you're going to be feeling this the most. Some would even say the whole third decan. So you guys are going to have to let me know. How are you guys feeling with this? Are you feeling it already? Well, new moon, new you, right? That's what we say when we have a new moon in the same sign as your ascendant. So it is giving you the opportunity to completely rework something about who you are. The South Node is already there. So it's basically saying that, you know, the cosmic garbage disposal is ready to kind of suck up all of that stuff and clear out all of the things that you no longer identify with. So when we see a solar eclipse in the first house, there is a strong focus on personal identity, self-image, and how you project yourself to the world. But with the South Node, it's prompting you to let go of old self-concepts, behaviors, and ways of dressing, acting, looking, being that no longer reflect your true self. So on one hand, it can feel like an identity crisis. It's like, who am I? What am I letting go of? Like, what's the, you know, what, like, where am I going? On the other hand, it can give you the opportunity to be positive and optimistic about having a fresh start. Here's what's interesting. The time of the eclipse, you're going to have Venus, right, which is also your chart ruler, in the 12th house. And Venus is going to spend quite a while here. She's in opposition to Saturn, which means there is some sense of you going, I need to be working on things behind the scenes. I'm tweaking stuff. I'm working on work-related things. I'm working on health. Like I'm kind of private. I don't want to be seen. I'm healing. I don't want to be bothered. So it can be very spiritual in that sense. If you're focusing more on maybe meditation or, you know, some kind of health spas or, you know, treatments, maybe foreign travel, okay. But it can also be difficult because there is a sense of separations here. You know, 6th house is about service and routine. Saturn rules your 5th house of happiness and also your 4th house of home. So there is some sense of realizing like certain things are not quite feeling right now. I need to be alone to kind of rest and recuperate until I'm feeling 100%. And likely once you start getting Venus into your sign in about a month, it's going to be a different energy. The other thing is that, you know, the eclipse being in the first house, it can bring issues pertaining to your energy, your body, your vitality. So you really got to pay attention to your physical health. Now, Libra represents the lower back. So I have seen, not just with Libra risings, but just in general, I've seen it a lot with Taurus risings, back issues. But, you know, the lower back, kidneys, anything involving purifying and detoxifying the body is really important. I would not be doing anything major to your body around the time of the eclipse, so for anybody, but especially Libras, because I do feel like something is not totally clear. Mercury is nearby, and Mercury rules the 12th house, which means it looks like you're planning on having changes with your body, you're planning on changing your style or something like that. So it seems like you're thinking it over, and maybe you'll, you know, execute, make some of these changes, or the changes become more apparent when Venus moves into Libra later in this next month. I would be reminding yourself that you are in the process of being reborn, that you're strong, that you are the creator of your own destiny. It's okay to embrace a new identity right now. And with the North Node in your 7th house, it could be I'm a partner, or I am getting married, or I have a new identity out in the world professionally, or something different that's going to be changing about how people perceive you. Be very careful with like scissors, physical changes, things like that to your hair. I have seen when the South Node goes through here, sometimes people want to cut, tattoo, pierce, change things. Venus is not happy. So wait another month or so until Venus comes into your sign before you make some of these changes, okay? The card that I get for you is the 5 of Swords, and I am not surprised. This is about having conflict in regards to communication and things not really coming out the way that you want them to come out, and there being some back and forth and like people kind of getting their feelings hurt. I want to remind you that Mercury, which does represent your subconscious and kind of like what you're thinking about or what you're keeping private, has yet to come into conjunction with the sun. So it almost looks like you're getting ready to make some kind of announcement. And Mercury is also in opposition to Chiron. conjunct the South Node. So some of you guys might feel like there was a lot of mental stress. There's like the sense of like unraveling and things changing with yourself, and it can create some issues in terms of relationships with other people and not knowing how to communicate. And you might feel like if you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So best way to handle this is that even though there's lots of change on the horizon, it's about how you're handling that in a private sense, how you're learning to take time and hold space and pray and heal and kind of work through that to embrace these new beginnings that are coming. And yeah, good luck. Let me know what happens with this eclipse. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, you'll be experiencing a solar eclipse in Libra. This will be taking place in your natal 12th house. The 12th house is all about spirituality, hidden matters, and the subconscious. This will all be emphasized during the eclipse. And it can signify a time of releasing and healing as you confront old fears or unresolved issues from the past. Now, this is an interesting one for you, Scorpio, because you're going to have this eclipse first before you have a lunar eclipse in Taurus at the end of the month where you're completing something significant in regards to relationships. So this, for me, feels like it doesn't matter if you're partnered or you're single. It's not even so much about relationships. It's just what has been kind of hiding in the shadows, what has been hiding in your subconscious, what has been needing to be worked through in regards to the storyline revolving around relationships and relationship karma, South Node in the 12th house in Libra. There can be lots of weird dreams. There can be like this like mental kind of dump that you're doing. There can be lots of conversations and pillow talk in the bedroom with partners. There can be opportunities to have breakthroughs in counseling and therapy offices, in meditation studios, in private spaces, churches, temples. Something about that is kind of getting triggered with the 12th house. Well, at the time of the eclipse, Venus will be in the 11th house, which is about your goals. It's about friendships. It's about your connection to the collective. So it might suggest that there is some support or something that's going on with like a friend or a female friend. And Venus is going to be in an opposition to Saturn. So it does seem to kind of signify there is a need to have some kind of support from other people to maybe help you move through some challenges that you're having on a personal level. Saturn in the 5th can make you feel like, life is a bit of a drag with your love life right now, or there's some challenges feeling loved or lovable, or maybe there's responsibility for a home business or maybe for a child. And so the solution here might quite literally be like connecting with somebody who's going to remind you that you're loved. But the downside of the 12th house can be about secrets in relationships. And, the 11th house has this connection to the lovers of other people. So it is possible that like you're in a relationship with somebody and, you're hitting a wall, and you can't figure out why, like what's going on. And then you realize like, oh, there's some stuff that they haven't resolved and like the effect that it's having on our relationship. It could also be that you have things that you haven't resolved. Or things that you're not communicating or, expressing, and that could be affecting that relationship. Now, for single, Scorpios and Scorpio risings, this could quite literally mean that there is some potential romantic connection with somebody who might be within your social circle, and you might not necessarily know that there's an interest, but there's an interest there, right? Nevertheless, like 12th house energy can be a little unsettling because there is something definitive about it. It is wrapping up a cycle, and the 12th house conjunction with Mercury is also some kind of breakthrough of a secret or a definitive or a final kind of like conversation. So I don't know if this is about like learning how to have better intimacy in relationships and like learning how to share your fears and work through that. Or if this is about having, conversations with other people about just like where your head's at and if you're kind of hitting a wall and you're, spent with a relationship. It depends. I would encourage you during this eclipse to really focus on releasing the past in any way, shape, or form. If it's, a friendship that didn't work out, if it's a relationship that didn't work out, if it's fears you have revolving around vulnerability and being in a relationship again, if it's things that you're paranoid about or you're feeling like partners aren't talking to you about, releasing these things and trying to release it, because you have to release the fear and the paranoia to be better kind of tuned into your intuition. And then remind yourself that you are connected and at one with the universe. Because so much of what's going on for you right now in the 12th house are things you have no control over. These are things that definitively come to an end. And this energy is pretty normal because you have this cycle generally before your birthday every year. So this is like already the cosmic clearing out that you have every October, but now you're having it with the South Node, which is amplifying it, and you're having an eclipse. So that's like a doozy in my mind. And just be mindful of self-undoing, self-sabotaging, isolating, not showing up, hiding, not talking to people about things, because that can be part of the problem. And if relationships are having issues right now, or if there are some really significant things that are affecting your relationships, your mental health, or if you're feeling just kind of like, stuck, it's coming up because there's something connected to past life. And so really meditating on clearing can be really helpful, and finding ways to kind of like flush this out subconsciously and having like a routine, perhaps before you go to sleep, would be really important. And watch for some of the things that come out, because like I said, in 2 weeks' time, you're going to have this lunar eclipse in your 7th house, which I do think is going to be like a real defining moment in existing relationships. For those of you guys who are single, if you do the work, it might be that you're rewarded in a couple weeks with somebody who comes in, or some major step forward in an existing relationship. But for others, if there's been, secret affairs, secret relationships, not being honest, not being direct about things, and things that have been kind of lurking in the shadows that finally come to a head, some real definitive things happening in relationships later in the month. And all of this, by the way, is coming into squares with Pluto, which is your chart ruler. So it's all going to be about transparency, honesty, clarity, directness about things. The card that I got for you is the Hierophant, which is the card of Taurus, which is your opposite sign. Once again, like I could see that this eclipse in so many ways is the counterpart to the next eclipse that's coming. So if the solar eclipse is saying, hey, we need to talk about the things that, we don't want to always talk about, or we need to acknowledge them, or we need to kind of deal with it so we can better partner, right? Hierophant, Taurus. For some of you guys, I think it's about finding somebody that you can talk to. And so the Hierophant can be a priest, a pastor, a counselor, a therapist, a doctor, somebody who's going to give you some sense of companionship and assistance through working through and untangling yourself from some of this karma in the 12th house. And also, because it has connection to Taurus, it could be about your status, your reputation, your marriage, something revolving around like who you are out in society. And so for all we know, it could be that you're just kind of dealing with some kind of subconscious, like, stress or anxiety that's kind of coming up that needs to be handled about moving into some of these new types of relationships, okay? Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You will be experiencing a new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Libra. If you are a later degree Sag rising, 20 to 24 degrees, you'll experience a sextile from this eclipse, which is really helpful. It's friendly for your sign. And when you have an eclipse in the 11th house, this is highlighting friendships, social networks, parties, group involvement, gatherings, get-togethers. This is also going to be about your goals when it comes to your friendships and networking. Now, the South Node is there, so it does reference potentially like letting go of old friendships or associations that no longer serve your growth. So can there be falling outs with friends? Yeah, that can happen. But there can be also like going to a party and connecting with somebody that you haven't seen in a really long time. There can be following up with someone that you want to connect with, that you want to do some professional networking with, somebody who might help you get into, a society or a group, or become a part of a board or an association. So that can be really significant as well. At the time of the eclipse, Venus is the ruler and she's in your 10th house. So this is really significant for your reputation out in the world professionally, how people see you, how you're performing at work, what bosses think about you, what your status is. And so Venus at the top of the chart is actually quite lovely because it does seem to indicate that you're focusing on nurturing these relationships with people in a professional sense. Now, Venus is technically kind of square to your sign. It's also coming into oppositions with Saturn. So a lot of the success is coming with some kind of sacrifice emotionally or on the home front. Now, I do feel like this is a real moment where you get your time, in the sun, where it's about your recognition and perhaps connecting with the right people that can recognize how much you're doing out in the world and allow you to maybe connect with them and give presentations and develop, relationships with them, at least in a professional way. Something that I would be recommending you remind yourself during this particular eclipse period is that you connect with like-minded souls, that you're a part of a supported community or group, that you are manifesting your dreams, that you're making your dreams a reality, you're making it come true. Especially with Mercury's close connection to this eclipse and the fact that it has connections to your 10th house and your 7th house, it does tell me that there might be much more of an emphasis in sharing either your career goals or your relationship with groups of other people. Now, I do think that some of you guys might have like a change in how you're socializing. You might say, I'm getting off of Facebook, or I'm making a change with like my social media, or, I no longer want to be on this platform. I want to be on that platform. Because of Mercury's involvement, and the 11th house might talk about some kind of change in regards to your goals and how you want to connect with other people. I also think that, the sextile to your ascendant is more or less kind of allowing you to broaden your horizons and connect with creatives that might be in other places. So let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I get is the Death card. So I am wondering if this is, it is possible that this is having like a real significant or definitive change in regards to your relationship with another person. Mercury so close makes me wonder, is it like you realizing like there's just this person I, used to be friends with and it's just, we're not jiving anymore, or there was this person that, I used to kind of connect with or, collaborate with and network with, and like it's not working anymore. Because death is definitive. The Death card is saying this is the end of the road. There is some kind of painful transformation we have to go through. We got to let something go. And personally, I feel like it could also be as a result of the Venus-Saturn opposition, that you're like, man, things are going really well, but I'm not seeing my family, or I'm not getting, my chores at the house done, or I never get any downtime, or it's affecting me emotionally. And so you might start to realize that part of the eclipse and the connections on the South Node is about like learning to also have friends that are just friends. It's not people that you need to network with or you need to kind of work with. It's people that you just need to kind of go out and have fun with. And you might start taking stock and looking at some of your relationships with people and being like, who's there for me? Like when I need support, who's there for me? Remember that North Node, it's in your 5th house, which is about your happiness, your creativity. Jupiter, it's retrograde in your 6th house, which means you're reevaluating whether or not working like a machine is actually good for you. There might be a lot of a demand, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be best for the lifestyle that you're trying to create. So finding the balance in your social life is great, but it also might mean that you're realizing that a lot of that is looking at some of the relationships you have with people and making sure that they're quality friendships. Good luck, Sag. All right, we have Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You're going to be experiencing a solar eclipse in Libra. This will be taking place in your 10th house. So, I'm going to tell you the same thing that I told Libra and Cancer and Aries, that this can be a little intense for you, Capricorn, because this is going to square your sign, especially if you are 20 to 24 degrees-ish of Capricorn, sun, moon, or rising. Now, you're someone who's familiar with 10th house energy, right? Capricorn has connections with Saturn, has connections with the 10th house. Every sign has challenges with the sign that is in their 10th house because it feels dominating, but I think you understand this energy. You get how it works. You know how to work with it, right? You're the goat, you're the boss. When you have eclipses and energies going through your 10th house, this is about your career, your public image, your life goals are suddenly coming into focus. But you're learning to let go of old ambitions and career paths that don't align with your true calling. I know you're like, oh, my heart, I can't. What do you mean? I have to give up control. That's where the universe wants you to go, babe. I mean, you know, I think that the beauty is that this is telling me where one thing is ending, something new is beginning, right? South Node. And at the time of this eclipse, you have Venus, which is the ruler, in the 9th house in a sister sign. So if you're an early degree Capricorn, this is easier because you're going to have Venus that's going to trine your ascendant saying, hey, like, I'm going to help you make the change. Maybe it's that you're going back to school. Maybe you're relocating, right? Maybe there's something going on where there's some legal stuff happening where you're, you know, kind of going toe to toe and ending a relationship or ending a relationship with an employer, but you've got, you know, somebody who's either a teacher or somebody law related who's got your back, who's guiding you through the process. I see lots of status changes in the 10th house. It's not even so much like, oh, I quit my job or there was layoffs, although these things can happen. South Node eclipse in Libra in the 10th is like, I used to partner with that person and we're no longer partners. We're now splitting off and doing our own thing. I used to be married to that person. We're separating. It's not always so much about work. In this case, it can be about relationships with people at work or your public status in the world. Unless you own a business with your partner, right? Maybe. But it can be about your business partnership as well. But, you know, the South Node swinging through there. Mars has been there. All of these planets in the 10th house have been in a square to Pluto. Somebody's been pushing your buttons. And I don't know if it's a romantic partner or if it's a business partner or if it's a boss or if it's a parent. But somebody's been pushing your buttons being like, hey, you need to change. You need to give this up. This has to kind of go away or we need to cut back. And it's like, how are you doing with that pressure? Are you encouraging yourself to, you know, remember that you are consciously always in the process of achieving your goals? And yes, you're a leader. You're just getting ready to lead in a different way. You know, you need to be grounded in your purpose right now. That North Node going through your 4th house is like, do I need to go and buy my first house and renovate it and work from home? Do I need to move back in with my mom? Do I need to return back to my home country? Do I need to spend more time at home and, you know, be focusing on kind of getting that side of my life balanced? As much as I hate to break it to you, Capricorn, for quite a while, you're going to have all of these outer planets at the bottom part of your chart. Pluto, Uranus, Jupiter, North Node, Neptune, Saturn. These are heavy hitters, man. And the bottom part of your chart is like your private life. It's who you are behind closed doors, you and your relationship with your family, your kids, your happiness, your health, your pets, your money. It's not parties, going out to work, doing this, that, and the other. You just so happen to have, you know, some inner planets that are moving through there right now. So there's more activity in the skies here, but you're going to get to about the new year, and then you're going to realize like, oh, it's more about, okay, you know, I'm wrapping up and just getting to the end of the year, and then I'm going to be kind of focusing on this new life that's emerging. With Venus being in the 9th house, traveling, belief systems, you know, teachers, mentors, guides are really significant in helping you through this process. So if some of you guys do have a job change, if you do get fired, if you do quit, if there are layoffs, you're going to be like, I'm going on vacation. I need a break. Or I'm going to go and talk to a legal advisor and see if this is, you know, a legal termination. I hate to say that, but that can happen. And watch for just the status changes in general. Probably right around the time Mercury comes, you're going to find out that there is going to be changes either with staff or with a schedule. You're going to be like, wait, who's leaving? Who's quitting? Or like maybe a boss like resigns. Something could happen there as well. All right, let's take a look. Let's see what these cards say for you. Especially the Venus-Saturn opposition, it does look like you already said something or signed something or had a conversation about something and you stood your ground. So I'm wondering who that was with. Oh, there's the lovers again. Hi. So for me, this is like not who do you love, but what do you love? What do you love? What is it that you would love to do? Because I think a lot of you guys are waking up to the idea with Jupiter and Uranus in your 5th house that you don't have to be a banker or an investor or a manager or, you know, I'm not going to say something that's boring, but something that's practical, something that's safe, right? You're caring less about what other people think about who you are and you're embracing more of like your freak flag. Jupiter, Uranus in the 5th. You're like, maybe I can make money being a professional gambler, right? Or, you know, being a tarot reader, being an astrologer, being a stock trader, being an artist, being a dancer, you know, something like that. And you don't really care so much about what other people think because you're so much more in tune right now with what your passion is and what you really love. And so I think that the Lover's card is saying that you're choosing that. You're consciously choosing that. And therein lies so much of the beauty of the quincunx or the inconjunct that's like, well, this is going to have to change in order to get more of that. You want more of that, you have to do this. So it's the willingness to kind of break that old image down, right? Good luck. New job, setting intentions, job interviews, obviously all that stuff is good. But it'll take about 6 months to see that new thing emerge. All right, so we got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You will be experiencing a solar eclipse in the sign of Libra. This will be in your natal 9th house, which is a fellow sister sign. So if you're an Aquarius, sun, moon, or rising, 20 to 24 degrees, you're going to be experiencing a trine, and that's lovely. All right, 9th house. This is going to be about travel, education, belief systems. This is all emphasized now. This is also going to be about revisiting old beliefs or outdated philosophies, maybe seeking a new perspective, but maybe it's going to be like I'm returning back to that place that I visited once that I loved, or I'm going and visiting my old college or university. I'm returning back to law school. I'm, you know, reconnecting to that love at a distance. I'm finally going to finish my book and get it published, right? These might be things that are coming up for you because this is all kind of 9th house stuff. And at the time of the eclipse, Venus, which is the ruler, is in your 8th house. Spicy. So there's something changing or transforming about money, joint resources, taxes, insurance, inheritance. There is an opposition between Venus and Saturn, so I'm going to go out on a limb here, but to me it seems like you're already aware that somebody is telling you something is changing with their finances or their resources. Venus rules not only your 9th house, which can be about in-laws also, but it also has connections to Taurus, which is your 4th house. So there could be like a female family member or relative at a distance that's saying to you, you know, having a difficult situation, having a difficult time, financially or in terms of relationships. You could have somebody who's coming and saying that they need some kind of help or support, and it's whether or not you can give them your time or give them resources, Saturn in the 2nd. Now, the other thing to take into consideration is like when you have solar eclipses here, it is possible that, like, let's say you have sat for an exam before and, you know, you didn't get the score that you wanted and you're like, well, I still want to be able to apply to this college. You may go back and take an exam. You might reapply to a school. You might return to, like I said, a place that you have visited or traveled to before. You might return to like a legal matter or something that you used to believe in. And with Mercury being so close, I feel like it's about some kind of information suddenly emerging. And I wonder if it's going to be about you guys doing some kind of work on like spirituality, metaphysics, occultism, because of Mercury's connection to the 8th house. I would be encouraging myself regularly to remember, and I would be telling myself that you're expanding your horizons, that you're seeking higher wisdom, that you're open to new adventures, that you don't know what the future holds, but you're excited to see what it brings. Because the 9th house is traditionally a pretty positive house. It does represent luck and fortune because it's a house that has associations with Jupiter. And this might be where luck comes to you from relationships or with people who may potentially be further away. So whether that's, you know, somebody who's a friend or a long distance relationship or somebody who kind of connects with you while you're traveling, these can be things that can kind of pop up during the eclipse. I do feel inclined, and you know, I probably should have talked about this more, but there is a inconjunct or a quincunx also to Uranus, which is your co-ruler, right? And so when this eclipse comes in, it does bump your co-ruler a little bit. So it can mean that whatever is coming up with the eclipse, it does impact you personally and your home or where you're living or something about your emotions or your private life. So I'm wondering who this potentially is. Mercury could be a younger person, a romantic partner, or a child. And it does create a little bit of friction here. That's like, oh, you want to move, you want to come back, you want me to visit, you need me to help you move. Like there's something kind of going on here that might involve somebody at a distance and your home. So it can definitely feel like the relationship that you have with somebody else, you might be kind of serving up some like kind of karma and having to be there to support them in some way. That is possible. And in conjuncts bring things out of left field, things that you don't see coming. Wow, there's that Four of Cups again. So this is talking about where perhaps maybe there is a sense of feeling like bored, restless, unfulfilled, right? Especially in the connection to the 9th house and in conjuncts to your natal Uranus, or excuse me, your transit Uranus. Is it possible that some of the sporadic, sudden things that pop up, the opportunities for adventure, the shifts in your belief system, the feeling like, okay, I need to get out and about and go somewhere, it is meant to liberate you. It is meant to give you a sense of getting out of your home, getting out of your like daily routine. I think that that's very possible. What might feel first like it's disruptive might actually be something that's to, help you kind of get out and engage with other people more, right, Libra? And it might actually be something that's like, at the very least, a little bit of an adventure. At the very most, something that might help you totally shift your perspective on life, or maybe even relocate. Good luck, Aquarius. And we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. You will be experiencing a solar eclipse in the sign of Libra, and this will be in your natal 8th house. My goodness. So I feel like for you, this eclipse is interesting because it does seem to indicate that there is a real emphasis when it comes to, releasing something. It's highlighting transformation. Yes, it's going to be highlighting shared resources and issues revolving around intimacy or inheritance. Psychological challenges can come up here as well in the 8th house. And prompting you to release old emotional baggage or financial entanglements. Yes, the 8th house is the house of entanglements, right? It has like this like Scorpio like kind of energy. So definitely the threads of fate are really significant for Pisces here. What's fascinating to me is that the 8th house deals with other people's money. So it can be money that belongs to a partner, it can be money belonging to a bank, it can be money that's owed, it can be a tax matter, whatever. But it also is under the lens of Libra. So it might be about whether or not you feel safe or secure based off of what other people do or do not give you, right? 8th house can be about intimacy, physical connection. It can be also about that intellectual connection and communication, and like where some sudden changes in relationships or clearing out of relationships can kind of have you like going like, whoa, like, do I even feel safe? Really reinforcing that North Node in the 2nd house of being like, I provide my own security. I make my own money. I value myself. I don't let other people kind of disrupt whether or not I feel good about myself or not. Anyway, so when this eclipse comes in, Venus, the ruler, will be in the 7th house, which, at the very least, it's positive. Venus does like being in the 7th house. Although there is a bit of like a cat and mouse game going on here where Venus has moved into the 7th, providing you with opportunity for relationships. But under Virgo is like your relationships with coworkers, your relationships with your healthcare practitioners. It could be where, other people aren't being as lovable. There is a sense of breaks and patterns in intimacy or relationships, or having problems with health, or having issues with addiction. And it's almost like after the back and forth of the Venus retrograde you've had all summer, it might feel like too little too late. Now that some people have decided they want to come around. This eclipse can kind of symbolize you looking at it being like, it's not good enough for what they're telling me, it's not fixing this, because Venus is standing in opposition to Saturn in your sign, where you're very adamant about your non-negotiables, what your bottom line is, what you need personally to feel safe and secure. I would assume this has been a bit of like a balancing act, having both Saturn and Neptune in your 1st house retrograde, that there are days that are good, that you're like, I know what my boundaries are. I'm not doing this. I'm focusing on myself. And then there's other days that are probably like angry crying, right? And feeling kind of like, why is this happening to me? Why am I by myself? Neptune in the first house. So there's a lot of back and forth with this energy. Libra does naturally in conjunct or quincunx your sign. So there is this sense of, relationships are being released and they're letting go and they're changing. And where does that leave me? And so you can do the Pisces spiral, or you can make the decision to go, okay, it's leaving me with the opportunity and the time and the capability to kind of go and rebuild myself and figure out who I am. Yes, relationships can change here, but it's really up to you, because Saturn is the one who is saying no to Venus. Saturn is the one saying, no, it's not good enough, or make it better, or clean it up, or get it together. You will have yet another eclipse in 2 weeks' time where Venus will then start coming into an opposition with Neptune and trine Uranus, which means that there may still be another moment where there could be some back and forth communication with somebody about signing a contract, talking about an agreement, deciding if you're going to stay together, signing a lease. And it may still be a time where you're like, yeah, still not good enough. So give it some time for this eclipse to shake out. I would be encouraging you to remind yourself to release what no longer serves you, to embrace transformation, and to really focus on being reborn in this power, even if you don't know what the future holds, right? Eclipses, and especially South Node eclipses in the 8th house, there can be a sense of getting some real shocks and surprises from other people, both in a sense of emotional connection, but also financially, because the 8th house represents, with that South Node, somebody getting cut off, or somebody cutting you off, or not being able to pay a bill, or not being able to show up in some way. So you have to funnel that energy back into yourself. I also would say that the 8th house is an energy that deals with death. And death comes in many forms. It can be endings of relationships, jobs, living situations. It doesn't have to be physical. But I think the death is really for you, really the grief and the loss of having had some kind of support, right, Libra? And then that's amplified with the South Node being there, ruled by Venus, and Venus opposed Saturn. It might mean that there is a sense of you really finally coming to terms with the fact that you know that somebody or something has to go, and it's not easy, you're grieving it, it might be messy financially, really kind of breaking that thing apart and separating it, dividing up things. That can be another theme as well. You might see more of that when you start seeing eclipses in the 3rd house. But I want to remind you that the incoming eclipse that you're going to have in Taurus will be conjunct Jupiter, which is your chart ruler. And that's going to give you the opportunity to have like a really big breakthrough and possibly finally, be able to have freedom or travel or move in some way. And it should be a situation that benefits you. It's just getting through this eclipse first. All right, so let's see what the cards say for you, Pisces. 3 of Wands again. So for you, I think this is about just getting on with it. Right? Getting on with it, getting the show on the road. I think that with the Mercury conjunction with the Sun and conjunctions to the South Node, there's going to be some really significant conversations with like what other people can or cannot do, or what they can and cannot pay you, or what they can and not or cannot sign up for or agree to. They might be talking to you about stress or anxiety they're having about money, or feeling like they're a bit mentally kind of frazzled right now, and it might kind of send you on your way and make you go like, I can't stay in this situation. I can't continue to go back and forth in this capacity. And realizing that you could be putting way more than you should be, or investing way more than you should be in a dynamic with another person that's actually tying you down. That's not giving you the freedom which you kind of need right now. 3 of Wands can be about movement and travel. And so I feel like really it's about, after having some of these definitive conversations around this eclipse, that help you better kind of navigate and make decisions about what's coming at the end of the month, or more importantly, what's coming next year as Jupiter moves into your 4th house, and maybe perhaps you move or you relocate, or, there's going to be some job changes that might also be coming up for you also at the end of this year. So there's a lot of like tying up loose ends with other people right now, and like getting that clarity so you know what direction you're going in, so you feel like you have said all that needs to be said, heard everything that needs to be heard, so you can really kind of get the show on the road. Really focus on releasing old baggage. That's the most important thing that you're going to be working on right now. And likely with these Mercury aspects, other people are going to be telling you exactly what you need to know to make the best decision. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I know that was a bit of a long one, but this is going to be a rather spicy eclipse, in my opinion. And like I said, this is going to be an eclipse that is not going to totally come to fruition and I guess complete until March of 2024. So when we get to March of next year, March 25th, we'll have the full moon lunar eclipse. And when this happens, we are going to have an exalted Venus, right? Conjunct Saturn. So there can be more stronger bonds and commitments in relationships. There can be a better connection to source and to spirit. There can be more quality things, right? We can be more so kind of at peace also with some of our relationships. Granted, a conjunction to Saturn is not easy, but I'll take an exalted Venus conjunct Saturn over a Venus-Saturn opposition. So some things may be breaking apart right now, okay, for other things to come back together. And it's probably not going to make sense for a lot of people, but you got to keep the faith. And I'll be back. I'm going to do another video on the Taurus lunar eclipse for you guys. Let this one kind of marinate a little bit. And then, like I said, as we are in between the eclipses from the 14th to the 28th, anything goes during that time. This is when we see lots of change happen. So you don't need to just see the effects the day of the eclipse. You might be seeing it as early as now. Me personally with clients and also in my own life, I mean, I'm Libra rising, Aries moon. I'm definitely seeing a lot of the effects that have started hitting over the last like 2 weeks. So I feel like it's already happening in a lot of ways. Let me know, how are you feeling with this eclipse energy? How is it impacting you? Where is this eclipse happening in your chart? Do you have anything in Libra, sun, moon, rising around this 21 degrees? I'd love to hear your take on this and what you're seeing collectively. I'll be here next week. We're going to be doing readings, and I will be doing readings the week of the eclipse as well. So stay tuned. Make sure that you guys are subscribed to my channel. That always gets posted on my community tab. So if you want to stop by during one of my live readings where I do donations, really good time to get like a little mini session with me, get some insight and kind of see what these eclipses might be doing for you. I am booked out right now through until October into November. So if you guys want a one-on-one reading, you can book one with me. I have some availability in November and December right now. You can head over to beyondtheveiledtarot.com. I also have reports and stuff too. So if you guys can't wait, I also do email reports. So you can like send your questions in and I can send that back to you. And there's lots of other stuff on the channel and as well throughout the next couple of weeks that will help you guys with some of these aspects. I am going to be, like I said, working on the other eclipse video, but we still have to do a Venus in Virgo as well. So I'll probably do that in between so we can really kind of break that down archetypally. I did, if you didn't see it, a video with Lunatic Astrology with Lori. We actually talked all about the lunar eclipse in Taurus. So if you're like, I don't want to wait, you can go and watch that. She was kind enough to invite me onto her channel and we got to rap about this incoming eclipse. So you could look at both of them now. And if you guys still want to pick up my eclipse webinar, it's for sale on my website. You guys can get that. It's over 3 hours long with extra PDFs. I include all kinds of magical recommendations, herbs and crystals to work with. And I go a little bit more in depth into some of the archetypes of Venus in Virgo and what this means for all of us collectively. I'm wishing you guys a happy eclipse. Do let me know how it goes. And I will see you guys on the other side. Until next time, take care.